Hey everyone, Lord Josh here. Welcome back to Taoist Magick. First of all, you may notice a big change. Instead of the static pictures that I used to use on here, I've now created something that is a lot more dynamic. Myself beautifully waving a Kongming feather fan back and forth amidst giant storm clouds and lightning. It's a representation of reality, the universe expanding and contracting. Each wave of the fan is like the beat of a heart, or the inhaling and exhaling of breath. One life starting, being born, one life ending, going home. The death of a star, the birth of a new planet. Such is the cycle, and also I want to hypnotize you whilst I'm speaking so I can influence you into becoming an evil Taoist sorcerer. No, I'm just jesting. Welcome back. I'm continuing on with the Eight Immortals and their mythology. If you haven't seen part 1, I really recommend that you watch that video first. I explain what the Eight Immortals are and what they represent as a collective, and how they became heroic in Chinese culture and society. I won't be going over that again in this video, so definitely watch part 1 first. In no particular order, I'm going through each immortal individually to give you the best perspectives on who they are and how the ritual magician can make use of them. In the last video, we discussed Lu Dongbin. Up next is Zhongli Quan, courtesy name Ji Dao, Hermit of the Cloud Chamber. He is also known as Han Zhongli due to his association with probably being born during the Han Dynasty. He is often depicted as a wine-drinking, reclusive, overweight jolly man with a pot belly who has a pleasing disposition. Zhongli is also famous for being the teacher of Lu Dongbin. Please see my first video on that whole story. He is known to carry a peach or a fan which grants him the power to revive the dead and transform stones into silver and gold. The peach is, of course, a Chinese symbol of immortality, and the fan is symbolic of wisdom, strategy, and longevity, among other things which we will talk about at a later date. In some of the legends, Zhongli was said to have been a well-respected general serving under the Han Emperor before becoming an alchemist and a disciple of the Tao. It is said that Zhongli was born in Yanjing, the son of a high-ranking government official. During his birth, bright beams of light filled the room. So bright were these lights that the guards in the room fell to their knees while shielding their eyes. Some versions of the story say he did not stop crying for 7 days straight, whilst others say he didn't cry once or make a fuss for 7 days. His facial features apparently predicted his great future. He had high cheeks, red lips, a square-shaped mouth, deep-set eyes, long eyebrows, wide ears, and a broad forehead, all signs of a very auspicious destiny. The legend says that his first words were the following: "My feet have wandered in the purple palace of the Immortals. My name is recorded in the capital of the Jade Emperor." Following the example of his father, when he grew up he joined the court, eventually becoming a general. He fought against the armies of Tibet, but had lost in the war. His armies were crushed by the Tibetans, and he had no choice but to flee the area. He retreated into a mountainous region and managed to find an old man who led him to a spiritual sanctuary. The old man told Zhongli he could stay as long as he wanted. It's amazing that in a lot of Chinese legends and Taoist stories, mountains and secluded remote locations are usually almost always central to the story. Mountains in Taoism are considered havens of spiritual study, where the qi is most potent, and this is why traditionally hermit masters would live in forests on mountaintops to enjoy the solitude and serenity of the environment. This fosters magical potential. It was here where Zhongli learned the Taoist arts of longevity, practicing rituals, reading sacred texts, and the old man taught him the ways of alchemy. After 3 days of intensive training, the old man instructed Zhongli to go back into the world and use his newly found powers for the good of all mankind. Now, a lot of people associate learning magic and alchemy with years and years of training, dedicating one's life to the practice. This, for the most part, is true, but you have to understand, with Zhongli, he was in a unique position. Defeated and on the run from being killed, death is one of the biggest motivators in spirituality. Being at an all-time point or low in your life, this is why so many magicians talk about the idea of suffering. It is often during a low point where people tend to find the Tao. It does raise an interesting question. Why is suffering so interwoven into the fabric of mysticism? In my opinion, when you face a life and death situation, the veil that separates the two worlds, earth and heaven, it becomes so thin you can almost taste the other side. This is coming from someone who has faced serious illness. Now you can go both ways here. You can succumb to death and wander into the next phase of being, or you can use it as fuel to empower your spiritual journey. Very often, you do not get to choose, or you don't get a second chance, but when you do not squander it. This is why those who have had heart attacks, or if they get cancer, if they survive the hardship of these things, it often changes their outlook on life. So Zhongli has been given a new fresh start. He leaves the Taoist sanctuary with a magical fan in his hands. When he turned back around to thank the old man, he saw that the man and the whole sanctuary had disappeared, seeing nothing but a vacant mountain forest. He then left the forest to begin his journey as a man of kindness and virtue. One legend says that he used his fan to turn stones into silver and gold coins to save common people from poverty and famine, and even managed to bring back the dead with this fan. Should I try these spells with my fan? What do you think? There are other stories about how Zhongli became an immortal. One thing you should know about Chinese and Taoist stories is there are almost always different versions of these stories for the same figure or character in question. So an alternate legend says Zhongli became an immortal after continually using his magical powers and fan. That eventually caused him to travel into the shimmering cloud of the immortals. The second story says he was meditating near a wall, and this wall collapsed. Behind it was a jade vessel which he used as a talisman, and that took him as an immortal to the shimmering cloud. So I think most of you would have a few questions here. If there are multiple stories centered around the same entity, which one should you attach importance to? Personally, I would say whatever one resonates with you. If you feel an emotional connection to a particular myth and there are other myths, stick to the one that you feel empowers you, because these myths are only powerful if you engage with them on that level. So for me, I would choose the story where Zhongli uses the fan to become an immortal, because I can relate to that one for obvious reasons. I love fans, I use fans, so always go with your natural instinct. One thing that makes Zhongli and all of the immortals so much more relatable is the fact that they have some quirks to them which could be seen as a bit negative. For example, Lu Dongbin is prone to bouts of rage and anger, and he's a womanizer. Zhongli is overweight and likes to drink wine. These characteristics are a representation of the immortals. There is no need to be intimidated or afraid of them. As I say in a previous video, they are not gods. They are a fusion of man and God, a kind of hybrid. So it only makes sense for them to have some human traits. You, as the practitioner, don't have to be perfect in order to speak with these beings. You don't need to adopt a holy mindset. If you mispronounce the names of the immortals, they won't hurt you. If you make a mistake during ritual, let's say you forget a certain step, don't worry too much because they won't destroy you. Not like a deity. For example, Lei Gong, who is known to be extremely prudent and sometimes judgmental, or another deity, Ying Long, who requires a very particular kind of magical formula. These 8 immortals are different. From my own experience, and I've worked with every single one of them individually and collectively, simply put, they do not judge people, they just assist them. Now, communicating with an immortal and becoming one are 2 very different things. To make contact with them, you need to have a motivation. Why are you reaching out? You need to have a reason. You need to have some decent skills when it comes to getting into trance state, what I call flow. And I would also say you need to appreciate Chinese mythology to a large extent, enough so that you care about these entities. To actually become an immortal, well, that is a whole other operation, which we will get into in a future video. How can the ritual magician contact Zhongli and benefit from his teachings? I can only give you my experiences here and how I make contact. This may work for you, this may not, but I've heard others say it does work for them as well. Keep in mind, every sect does things differently. In Taoism, when you want to communicate with a spirit, you will need to categorize that spirit correctly in order to know what to feed it. Spirits and ghosts tend to energetically eat vapors and incense smoke. Fragrances attract entities. This has a magnetic type of effect. It draws in the entities that you want, and if you know what you're doing, it will keep the ones you don't want away. It's like moths to a flame, but you need to know what type of entities to attract and how to get their attention. In Taoism, there are yin and yang incense papers. The yin incense papers are usually colored silver and are only used for ghosts that have recently died in the last 100 days. After 100 days, the spirit moves onto a deeper layer of the afterlife, and you have to find other ways of feeding it. People use yin silver paper for a recently deceased family member, a friend, a loved one, and yang gold incense paper is used for gods, deities, heavenly spirits, and those who have attained the status of immortality. So whilst you are burning the gold paper for the celestial immortals, also burn some nice incense. In this case, I would recommend a combination of white sandalwood and frankincense. White sandalwood is considered to be a feminine energy related to the water element within Wu Xing. It's also related to the moon, and it's viewed as being very yin. Frankincense is often used in Taoist traditions to induce spiritual visions, to open up the practitioner into seeing things that others cannot. When these two are combined, they emit a very powerful vibrational resonance within the smoke, which is one of the highest vibrations in any plant. The higher the vibes, the higher the smoke will reach into the heavens, the more chance of making real contact. This is exactly the kind of chi you want for the immortals. Lu Dongbin seems to like red sandalwood and Zhongli likes the white. That's just from my experience, so I do encourage you to safely experiment. Because Zhongli is an alchemist, this means that the practitioner can call upon him for anything relating to Neidon. The story about him turning stones into silver and gold with his fan is another way of explaining the internal process of transformation via alchemy, especially within the 3 dantians, enabling the human body to become a cauldron, cultivating qi, jing, and shen. He is also deeply connected to necromancy, reviving the dead with the fan. Now, don't just think of typical corpse magic here. We have to think a bit deeper. Take, for example, what I'm doing with Taoist weather magic. One could say I'm reviving the tradition. I'm restoring it back from the dead by talking about it online. Zhongli is helpful if you want to revive or restore an idea or a concept that seems lost to time, or maybe you just want to fall in love with an old hobby that you once had that has died out over the years. You can raise these feelings and bring them alive once again by using his energy. But you can work with him for actual necromancy as well if you want to. I don't practice necromancy, it isn't my cup of tea, but I know you can use Zhongli as a guardian spirit. If you do a lot of graveyard rituals, you can ask him to stand by as a third-party entity between you and the spirit that you want to speak with. He will make sure you are kept safe. To me, he tends to work like a protector guardian. And if you practice Taoist necromancy, especially in graveyards at night, you will need some type of overseer to keep you protected. He is great for this. All of the Immortals have talismanic items that represent them. These items behave like keys. If you use the correct one, you will be able to unlock the energy of that Immortal and communicate with it. In this case, there are really two, the fan and the peach. Because Zhongli is also known to enjoy wine and drinking, like a lot of the Immortals, you can use wine as an offering on your altar. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, everyone, taking a good look at Zhongli. I'll be back soon with more Taoist magic. Take care.